Please don't judge my book buying habits. My bank account does that enough for me. Hey y'all, my name is Nat. I hope you're having a terrific day today, and for this video we are going to be doing my first quarter of the year book haul and unhaul. Before we get into anything bookish, however, make sure to hit like and subscribe down below, as well as tell me in the comments what was the last book that you got rid of. Hopefully you made some more room on your shelves. I probably need to do a little more of that, especially when I look at the number of books I bought already this year. Thankfully, this is between 3 months. I do also have some unhaul books, which is good. I will have timestamps down below for the book haul and the book unhaul section. I guess first let's jump into the book haul. I have these a little segmented out, kind of. So the first books I bought this year were at the Barnes & Noble hardcover half price sale when I was up in New Jersey visiting some friends, and I picked up The Ravens by Cass Morgan and Danielle Page. I've heard really great things about this. I think it's like set at a sorority on a college campus, but like the sorority is actually all witches. I've been very intrigued by this premise from the beginning. Ever since I heard that, I wanted this, and also this badass cover. I don't know why the Ravens just really do it for me. And then I think the second book in this duology is like the Monarchs, and it's all butterflies in the same kind of style. It's just so beautiful. Along with that one, I also grabbed Skin of the Sea by Natasha Bowen, and this is a Little Mermaid retelling in which I believe our Little Mermaid is supposed to gather souls. Actually, she's supposed to gather souls, but then she ends up helping a boy who should have died, and instead she saves his life. And then of course that leads to some unforeseen consequences, and then they go on some sort of a adventure. I thought this was a standalone, but turns out I think it's actually the start of a series. However, from everybody who's read it so far, I've only heard positive things. Amanda at Ginger Snapped Reads had so many positive things to say about it, and after reading her review, I'm really excited to pick this up. This cover is also absolutely beautiful. Good cover, wins me over very quickly. Oh, look at that. You got like perfect spot for him. Okay, so next are the books that I have grabbed from Book of the Month so far this year. I am actually pretty proud of myself because I technically skipped February, but with that being said, I bought 2 books in January, so does that really make it better? First up is Yinka, Where Is Your Husband by Lizzie Damilola Blackburn, and I've heard this pitched as like Bridget Jones' Diary, but revamped and with a Nigerian main character. I actually saw this on Emily Henry's Instagram, and I was so intrigued by the premise and the praise she was throwing upon it that whenever I saw it as a Book of the Month pick, I had to pick it up. I am really intrigued about this. I think it's also just very focused on like finding love for yourself on top of the romance element in it. Haven't really heard very much about it, but what I have heard has been kind of middle of the road. Also in January, I couldn't help but grab Love and Other Disasters by Anita Kelly. This is a romance with some non-binary representation and is on the set of a baking show. All you had to say. Already intrigued, that's all I needed to know for me to buy it. Yeah, I was that easy. I've heard pretty mixed things. I know some people who've given this 5 stars. I know other people who have DNF'd it, but it sounds very up my alley. I've also heard it's pretty spicy, so I'm very excited to read this one here soon. There are a lot of romance books with some kind of a cook or baking element in them. I've had that video idea floating around in my brain for a while, and I keep saying that I'm gonna do it at some point. If I ever finally do, this will work perfectly. And then in March, I picked up The Book of Cold Cases by Simone St. James. I'm gonna be completely honest, I have no idea what this is about. I saw Simone St. James and Thriller automatically on my to-read list because I have absolutely loved her 2 previous works I've read, which was The Broken Girls and The Sundown Motel. Both of those have dual timelines and then some sort of a paranormal aspect within the mystery. I don't know why, but she manages to write both of those aspects within the book so well, and the mysteries are incredibly gripping. Yeah, I saw this, automatically knew I had to choose it. If you watched my April TBR, I'm actually planning to read this one in April, so hopefully you will get a review here soon. Next is a couple of books that my boyfriend bought me, and then one I actually borrowed from him. So he got me a few mystery books for Valentine's Day. One of them ended up being The Dark Tide by 𝗖cie když/, and all I know about this is it's a YA standalone fantasy. There are witches, a sapphic romance, and like every year one person has to be sacrificed to a witch. That's all I know. That's all I want to know. This cover, that little synopsis, I'm in. I'm so intrigued. I'm very excited to pick this one up sometime. I'm not going to say here soon because I have no idea when it will be picked up, but I want to pick it up. The other mystery book ended up being Watch Over Me by Nina LaCour, and I know this is set on some kind of like a compound in which this girl is watching after children. I think it's kind of culty, and then there's some kind of a paranormal element going on. That might not be right. Don't quote me on that. I have no idea. It was super ironic that one of the mystery books ended up being this because Josh actually considered buying this for himself at one point, and he already owned We Are Okay by Nina LaCour, also another contemporary. I think this is following a girl who like runs away from home after her mom dies or her grandma dies or her friend dies, something along those lines, and it's tackling the topic of grief. I say run away. I think it's like she went across the country to go to college in reality. Don't know too much about this. However, reviews I've heard have all been fairly positive, and I am really intrigued to pick it up. Both of these books are really short. These would work really perfectly for a author taste test at some point. Also, I love how these are not connected in any way in the universe, at least I don't think, but the covers, they look so gorgeous next to one another. Next up are the books I bought for myself in my book shopping vlog, which I'll link in the cards as well as in the description down below. Most of those were nonfiction, but not all of them because I'm not that controlled. First, I grabbed John Green, The Anthropocene Reviewed. This is his nonfiction work, and I believe it's kind of a compilation of just essays in which he is discussing random topics here and there. I've heard positive things about it. I loved John Green's writing when I was in middle school and early high school years, so I think reading this is going to be incredibly nostalgic, and I'm very excited. Also, this is my third of his books that are signed. Then, in an effort to try and make myself be better about continuing series that I am enjoying, I picked up Well Played by Jen DeLuca. This is the second in the Well Met universe. I don't know if the series has a different name, but this is following 𝗖cie? Yes, 𝗖cie, who was friends with Emily in the first book, and this is her own romance in which I think she falls in love with a guy who's a part of one of the bands that performs at the Renaissance Fair. It's all over text though, and then eventually she ends up realizing that the guy she has been talking to is not who she thought it was. It's like kind of got a secret identity thing going on. I don't know. I'm very excited to continue with this though. I loved the Renaissance Fair as a setting for a modern contemporary, and it was pretty cute, pretty fun, lots of banter in the first, hoping that this will have some of those things as well. Following that, another nonfiction book that I picked up was Lady Killers by Tori Telfer, and I'm gonna be honest, I had no idea what this was about apart from, you know, female killers, and the cover just automatically made me add it to my TBR, so whenever I saw it in the bookstore, I automatically had to pick it up. I think this is literally just a compilation of stories about different famous female killers. Yeah, the first one was 𝗖cie Bathory. That probably was definitely a butchering, but I know she bathed in the blood of young women, possibly virgins, something along those lines. Next was one I had never heard of before, but it definitely made me reflect on my thesis from when I was in college, and that was The Beauty Myth by Naomi Wolf. I'm very invested in the discussion of beauty standards within our society and how it affects women and their perceptions of themselves, their mental health, so all that kind of stuff definitely made me intrigued to pick this up. It is from the 90s, so I'm sure it will be a little dated. Some of the topics and even trends within this are probably going to be kind of outdated now, but I'm still very invested in this topic, and hopefully this can help me to strengthen my own argument. Not that I'm really writing any arguments about this anymore, but you know, like I said, lots of nonfiction, because next up is Hood Feminism by Mickey Kendall. This is a nonfiction book looking at feminism that is not specifically from the white perspective. It is talking much more about the intersectionality that is necessary in feminism, and I have heard nothing but positive things about it. I've really been wanting to pick up my own copy for quite a while now, and I finally was able to find one, so yay, can't wait to get into this. I'm probably gonna tab the crap out of it, I just know it. Another nonfiction with Let's Pretend This Never Happened by Jenny Lawson, which is a memoir of a woman who I only know is incredibly hilarious. Every review I've seen for all of her different memoirs has been glowingly positive and just mentions how absolutely hilarious they are. So I grabbed the first one of hers. I think this one's from like 2012, and I'm pretty sure she has 2 additional ones on top of this. So I'm really hoping that I will enjoy her writing, and if I do, then I have 2 more of her books to read afterwards. Next is another book that I am planning to read this month, so hopefully check out my wrap-up at the end of the month and you might have a review of this one too. And that is 𝗖cie by Angela Chen. I believe this is Angela Chen attempting to discuss asexuality and make it more digestible for the average individual, given that it is not a sexual orientation that gets a lot of attention and is often misunderstood. I have also heard tons of positive things about this from both Ace reviewers and non-ace reviewers, so I'm really excited to pick this up and see this perspective of a sexuality that, like I said, I haven't read a lot about. Then finally, the last nonfiction book is one I've actually already read, and that is From Here to Eternity by Caitlin Doughty. This is the last of her books, which I did not own, and so of course, when I saw they had a copy and it is the matching cream paperback version with my other two books, had to pick it up. If you are new to my channel and have not heard me spew my love for Caitlin Doughty before, she is a mortician and cremator and is attempting to discuss death in a way that brings it out of the closet and makes it not such a taboo topic. This one specifically is her traveling the world and looking at how different cultures handle their dead and the ways it can both connect and separate people. It was a fascinating read, and I'm really glad I have it on my shelves now. Next up is a book that Michelle's library was kind enough to send to me, and that is Good Girl Bad Blood by Holly Jackson. This is the second book in the Good Girl's Guide to Murder series, and like I was saying, if I have the books on my physical TBR, maybe that will ensure that I'll continue the series, possibly. This, I believe, is also following Pip from the first book, A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. However, she is investigating some kind of a new mystery, and I think this one might have a podcast element as well, so that's really fun and a little different from the first. Finally is a book I grabbed up from a little free library, and that was Anne Rule's Small Sacrifices. Anne Rule is the queen of true crime, so when I saw her name, I automatically had to grab this up. This is actually the story of Diane Downs, which I'm pretty sure I've heard a few times now, but I know this woman's definitely going to give it so much more attention that it deserves, because this is a very serious and very dark crime. So I'm very excited to pick this up at some point. It's probably going to be a pretty heavy read. It's also pretty chunky, so this is on my big book TBR. Maybe it'll fulfill that prompt at some point this year. Okay, so that was all the books that I have hauled in the last 3 months. Now let's go through all of the books that I am planning to get rid of. I think pretty much all of these I have read already, so I will try my best to put a link to the reviews over here. So first is one that I was really disappointed in, and that is Night Film by Marisha Pessl. Almost fell out of my hand. Thankfully, I actually picked this up at a library sale, so that being said, this was just way overwritten, way too long, and towards the end, the characters just no longer made sense for how they had been established to us. Unfortunately, I'm never gonna reread it. I'm getting rid of it. This is a pretty hyped book though, so hopefully somebody in a little free library will appreciate it. Next is Helter Skelter by Vincent Bugliosi. I read this back in Nonfiction November, and while I did really enjoy it, found it a fascinating read. It's pretty chonky, it's definitely well loved, but I just don't see myself ever rereading this. I might possibly check out some Manson family documentaries, but chances of me pushing through a 600-page heavy nonfiction, not particularly likely. Then I have a recent read, which I attempted to read not once, but twice, and that was Mayhem by Estelle Lohr. I actually just recently reviewed this in my Second Chances reading vlog, so go check that out. It was pitched to me as Lost Boys meets The Craft, but make it feminist, and honestly, it was so boring. It felt like nothing was happening. Then we have another book that was unfortunately a disappointment, and this is really sad because this is one of my favorite authors, and that's The Cousins by Karen M. McManus. Unfortunately, this just did not live up to her previous books for me. I did not love the characters in this one nearly as much as her other books. I'm not going to keep it on my shelves. I'm definitely not going to reread it at any point, so that's a shame. I still need to pick up her next book and see how that is, but I'm a little hesitant after The Cousins was such a letdown. Then we have Jane Anonymous by Lori Ferreira Stellaris, and I read this one in my YA Mystery 5x5. This did have a very well done twist that I think makes it push from just a traditional mystery to a psychological thriller. However, it's really unfortunate that I had just previously read another book that had that exact same kind of twist. It wasn't particularly shocking to me. Well, I did enjoy this, and I do think it is a underhyped YA mystery. I just don't really see myself ever rereading it, so yeah, getting rid of that one too. Then we have one that genuinely pains me because I loved this author's first book so much, and that is One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston. I didn't hate this like some people did, but it was definitely a letdown for me in comparison to Red, White, and Royal Blue. I just did not fall in love with these characters nearly as much. The story felt way too bogged down with so many different side plots, and also overwritten, and I'm just gonna say it. Jane was so boring. Like, she was such a flat character, and I'm sorry. Hopefully somebody else will appreciate this a lot more than I did. After that, we have The Maidens by 𝗖ție mich𝗁𝘁. I read this for a Killer Professor's reading vlog, and I also DNF'd this because I could not stand being in this main character's head for another minute. She drove me insane. Why was every single man in this book in love with her? It made no sense. Then I ended up looking up the twist, and shockingly, I hated it. I'm getting rid of that. Next is one I actually had relatively positive feelings for, but I just don't really see myself rereading this. Honestly, I'm not particularly sure if I'm going to continue with the series now, and that is Arsenic and Adobo by Mia P. Manansala. And this is a cozy mystery set within a Filipino family at Tita Rosie? Yeah, Tita Rosie's kitchen. It was very cute, very fun. Unfortunately, it does have a bit of a love triangle that is being developed. And while I did really enjoy this for a cozy mystery, I do think it was a bit predictable, and while I think the characters were well established for a first installment, and I can see that they're probably going to grow as it progresses, they didn't win me over so much so that I can't live without continuing the series. Finally is another book that I didn't DNF, but I also read in that Second Chances reading vlog, and that was Girl A by Abigail Dean. This is it's not a thriller, it's more of like a literary fiction. It is following this girl named Alex, who she and her siblings were held in a house of horrors by their parents when they were young. Eventually, Alex ended up escaping and freeing the rest of her siblings. However, it's about 15 years later, their mother has recently passed away and left Alex the house, so they're all having to decide what to do with it. This was sold to me as a thriller. It is not one, though. There's not really much of a mystery going on. I guess there's a twist, but I didn't find it particularly shocking. I didn't like any of the characters, and the writing style is really unusual as well as very poorly paced. Yeah, it's kind of a spoiler for that Second Chance reading vlog, but not a big fan of this one. Okay, y'all, so that's a lot of books that I've recently hauled. Not nearly as many that I've gotten rid of, but fingers crossed that in my next video I will have the opposite. Maybe I'll be getting rid of more books and hauling less. Don't laugh at me, I'm laughing at myself already. Those chances are very low. Okay guys, so that is it for today. Thank you so much for coming to my channel. I really appreciate it. Make sure to hit like and subscribe down below. I have all my socials linked in the description if you're interested in keeping up with what I am reading. I come out with videos on Monday and Friday, but until then, I hope you continue to have a terrific day. Love you, bye!